Frank Lucas, the infamous drug lord depicted by Denzel Washington in American Gangster, led a life that's as fascinating as it is controversial. The film paints Lucas as a mastermind behind a vast heroin empire in Harlem, but the reality is clouded by myths and exaggerations. As Lucas himself said, "I was no angel, but I wasn't no monster either." Spoiler alert, the truth might just be wilder than fiction. Let's start with Bumpy Johnson's death. The movie seriously messes up how Bumpy Johnson died. It shows this dramatic scene with him dying in Frank's arms at some appliance store, supposedly all upset about big chains moving in. But here's the real scoop. Bumpy actually passed away in 1968 while eating at a Wells restaurant on Lenox Avenue in New York. Frank claims he was there when Bumpy collapsed, but Bumpy's wife, Mamie Johnson, says that's a load of nonsense. According to her, Bumpy died with his old friend Junie Bird by his side, and Frank wasn't even in the picture. Frank Lucas's role and relationship with Bumpy Johnson. The film tries to sell us on Frank being Bumpy's driver and right-hand man for 15 whole years, but that's just Hollywood fiction. Mamie Johnson sets the record straight, saying Bumpy never kept a driver that long. She admits Frank might have driven Bumpy a few times, but to Bumpy, Frank was just some guy who might carry his coat. Plus, the math doesn't even work out. Bumpy was only out of prison from 1963 to 1968 when he died. So that 15-year story, it's not possible. The meeting with 007 and the Golden Triangle. The movie shows Frank getting cozy with heroin suppliers in Southeast Asia, meeting some mysterious dude called 007 right in the poppy fields. Surprisingly, Frank actually backs this part up. He says he did meet a guy who went by 007 and saw the opium fields firsthand. In interviews, Frank claimed this Chinese contact took him to the Golden Triangle, where Thailand, Burma, and Laos meet. He described seeing endless fields of opium poppies stretching as far as the eye could see. Frank even said he'd dress up as a U.S. Army lieutenant colonel to blend in during these trips, boasting, "You should have seen me. I could really salute." While this adds some credibility to the film's portrayal, experts still debate how much direct involvement Frank really had in these overseas operations. The truth likely lies somewhere between Hollywood's glamorized version and a more mundane reality of drug trafficking. The coffin myth. Lucas's smuggling operation. American Gangster sensationalizes Frank's heroin smuggling operation with a shocking claim. He used coffins of dead soldiers from Vietnam. Frank himself has given conflicting accounts, initially boasting about coffins with false bottoms, then later exaggerating the numbers. However, Leslie Ike Atkinson, Frank's alleged accomplice, debunks this entirely. He insists they used teak furniture and military luggage instead. This glaring contradiction makes the whole coffin smuggling tale smell fishier than week-old sushi. The infamous sidewalk murder. Hollywood's version includes a chilling scene where Frank guns down a rival dealer in broad daylight on a packed sidewalk. This dramatic moment stems from Frank's own tale about offing a gangster named Tango. He once told journalist Mark Jacobson he shot Tango, a 270-pound bald-headed character feared by many, 4 times over a money dispute. Frank boasted, "I killed the baddest man, not just in Harlem, but in the world." But here's the twist. Frank later recanted the story, and there's zero record of him being charged for this crime. Seems Frank might have been spinning some tall tales to jazz up his street cred. The truth about Blue Magic. Denzel Washington's portrayal of Frank Lucas suggests his heroin brand, Blue Magic, was 100% pure and dominated the streets. Reality paints a different picture. While it was about 98% pure coming in from Asia, Frank cut it down to around 10% before selling. Still, that potency far exceeds the usual 1 to 3% junk on the streets. This made Blue Magic both a hit and a deadly danger for users unprepared for its punch. Richie Roberts and the $1 million drug money. One of the film's more celebrated moments shows Richie Roberts as an incorruptible cop who turns in $1 million in dirty money, only to be ostracized for his honesty. The truth? Roberts did indeed turn in the cash, a commendable act, but contrary to the cinematic depiction, he didn't become a total pariah. While he faced some backlash, it didn't derail his career to the extent Hollywood portrayed. The flamboyant fur coat. On screen, Frank's downfall begins when his wife buys him a flashy fur coat and hat, catching the attention of law enforcement. This detail actually aligns closely with reality. Julie Lucas did purchase Frank a chinchilla coat and hat, which turned heads. However, Richie Roberts clarifies that the police were already aware of Frank before this ostentatious display. Nevertheless, Frank admits the coat was a misstep, believing it intensified the heat on him. Family and relationships. Hollywood paints Frank Lucas as a devoted family man, but the reality is far murkier. Richie Roberts, who knew Lucas intimately, dismisses this portrayal as ludicrous, crafted to make Lucas more sympathetic. While Lucas did involve relatives in his drug empire, the image of a doting patriarch is pure fiction. The film also embellishes Lucas's wife Julie's background, claiming she was Miss Puerto Rico when she was actually a homecoming queen, a far cry from the prestigious title depicted on the screen. The raids and arrests. American Gangster climaxes with a dramatic raid on Lucas's home and his arrest outside a church. Reality was less cinematic. While there was indeed a major bust, Lucas wasn't nabbed in a public spectacle. The true story is more sobering. Lucas's daughter Francine, just 3 years old at the time, witnessed the raid on their Teaneck, New Jersey home. Both her parents were arrested, with her mother Julie spending 6 months in jail for trying to hide evidence during the raid. Blowing up a cop's car. In one intense scene, Lucas retaliates against a corrupt officer by blowing up his car. Surprisingly, this explosive moment has a kernel of truth. Lucas himself confirmed this act, stating bluntly, "I'm going to tell you right now, yes, I did blow it up." This admission reveals the violent lengths Lucas would go to protect his empire. Corrupt cops and extortion. The film's depiction of widespread police corruption isn't far from truth. Lucas has spoken about being regularly extorted by dirty cops, particularly those in the NYPD's Special Investigations Unit. He claims they took over $200,000 a week from him. By 1977, the extent of this corruption was laid bare. 52 out of 70 officers assigned to the unit were either jailed or under indictment. The Lucas-Roberts relationship. Hollywood cranked up the drama between Frank Lucas and Richie Roberts, painting them as arch-nemesis in a cat-and-mouse game. In reality, their relationship was far less personal and cinematic. Roberts wasn't some lone wolf detective obsessed with taking down Lucas. He was just one cog in a larger law enforcement machine. The movie's cinematic face-offs between the two? Pure imagination. No epic confrontations, no witty exchanges in interrogation rooms. The real investigation was a team effort, with Roberts playing his part alongside numerous other detectives. This Hollywood embellishment turns a complex, multifaceted investigation into a simplistic hero-villain narrative, glossing over the true intricacies of bringing down a drug empire. The real Frank Lucas, post-prison life. In the years following his release from prison, the real Frank Lucas attempted to reinvent himself. He worked with his daughter Francine on community projects, expressing a desire to be remembered for helping children rather than for his criminal past. Ironically, the Hollywood version of his life may have done more to cement his legacy as a notorious gangster than his actual crimes. Frank Lucas passed away on May 30th, 2019, at the age of 88 due to natural causes. While the movie vividly depicts Lucas's rise and fall within the criminal world, it didn't fully address the profound human impact of the drug trade. The prevalence of high-purity heroin like Blue Magic had catastrophic consequences, leading to a wave of overdoses and tens of thousands of deaths across the United States during the 1970s.